Eric, Louisiana saved nearly $153 million by implementing a package of bipartisan public safety laws in 2017 known as the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. An audit released this week shows that many of those reforms have worked, saving the state money, reducing recidivism for some inmates while reducing overall prison population in the state. But some measures in that JRI report could get rolled back if lawmakers pass several bills up for consideration in Governor Jeff Landry's special session on crime. Joining us this morning is Chris McGee, the Performance Audit Manager for the Legislative Auditor's Report. Sir, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know, this is the first time that we've seen some real data showing us what the JRI has done. What was the purpose of releasing it?
Yeah, so we embarked on this a little over a year ago and have actually released two reports. The first one looked at cost savings, how that was calculated, and then how the money was spent, whether it was on programs for victims and things like that. The second one was really, now that 5 years has passed since the implementation of JRI, we really wanted to take a look back and see really what worked, what maybe hasn't worked as well, and try to decide for the next phase of JRI, how should we change things if we need to change things at all.
Sure thing, Chris, and we've got a few just quick notes of the JRI and what was passed and how it works, if we can get that on the screen, along with those key points there. Recalculating prison terms for nonviolent offenders, gave judges more discretion to offer probation, and made it easier for some prisoners to receive parole, including juveniles sentenced to life. We'll talk more about a lot of those points in a second, but first we want to talk about the money savings. The report concluded that nearly $153 million in savings, and that was a goal of the JRI by extending opportunities for those early release programs by those nonviolent offenders. But you found that that money doesn't trickle down locally.
Right. So the way that the dollars are allocated throughout the state has really changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
Some goes back to the state general fund, and then it goes to various agencies for programs. It also goes to agencies for victim services. And what we found, though, specifically for those incarcerated individuals, the people who are in the prisons, where you are depends on the access that you have to these services. Often the dollars remain at the state level facilities and don't necessarily go down to the local facilities, despite the fact that over half of the state's felony population are in local correctional facilities.
Right, that percentage point is at roughly 53% there. There are several bills that are up for debate in the special session that aim to roll back some of the JRI's reforms, especially those good time changes. Let's talk about the good time changes and some of the findings that the report pointed out here. We'll start there.
Mm-hmm. So what we found, we did specifically look at the good time population and attempt to determine if those individuals were having a better success primarily in returning to prison or not returning to prison. And what we found is that those individuals released with the good time law do come back at a lower clip. The entire population returned to custody at about 26%, whereas those individuals who were released on good time returned at about 17%. And so it does appear that that population receiving services and getting out are coming back at a less frequent rate.
You also found that those who are released for nonviolent offenses returned at a much lower rate, but also those who were convicted of violent crimes actually stayed in prison longer. But you say that that's by design. That was the point of the legislation.
Yeah, one of the goals of JRI was to reduce the prison population and focus prison beds on those who are violent. And so what we found is really before JRI, the prison population was decreasing. Once JRI was implemented, it decreased even further. COVID did come in and have a hand in that. But what we found is that as a percentage of the inmate population, the majority and an increasing majority of those individuals are actually people with violent offenses. So it does appear that one of the four goals of JRI to reduce the prison population, but increase and reserve bed space for those who are violent was being met.
In looking at the special session that's going on right now on crime, I know that this report doesn't have anything to do with that. It's independent of the legislative matters there. But I'm curious as to what could change if some of these proposals that are on the floor are implemented.
Yeah, we haven't really gotten too much into the legislation itself. What we were very cognizant of is attempting to have this report out before the regular session, just so it could help inform any discussion around any changes that may occur to the JRI program. Once we were aware that there was going to be a special session, we again wanted to make sure that this was there to help inform any discussions around any changes that may come. We did have in our report recommendations for the agencies, but also we did have a few matters for legislative consideration that they could make some changes potentially in the areas that we analyzed as a part of this report. So really, we're just there with this information from both JRI reports that we issued to just contribute to the conversation where needed or asked where necessary.
Most certainly, sir. And another thing that you said that you found is that there isn't really a consensus among those within the criminal justice system. You refer to them as criminal justice stakeholders on the efficacy of this. And a lot of that is in part due to an overall lack of data out there within the criminal justice world. I mean, is that something that could potentially change here?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we found. We tried to look at what may be holding Louisiana back in achieving the maximum success of JRI. Now, one of the issues with that is we as a state haven't set what is success. We haven't said that we want recidivism to go down X% as a result of JRI. We don't want X% of individuals to obtain jobs, things like that. But what we wanted to look at are what are some of the challenges out there. And one of the ones that we did find is that stakeholders do have differing views. We conducted a survey of various stakeholders and found that even within the same parish, those who are responsible for implementing JRI have completely different views on it, whether it's good time or various things like that.
All right, Chris, there is a lot to discuss here. We are out of time this morning. Chris McGee from the Louisiana Legislative Auditor, thank you for being with us this morning. As I mentioned, Chris, very extensive report. It is right here. We thank you for being with us. And to our audience here, you can find that full report for you. It's on our website this morning, wwltv.com.